Hey folks, Wrongwise Gamgee here. I just want to briefly announce that the Quick and Dirty RPG system is now available on DriveThruRPG for $4.99. That's almost a 40% price reduction from its original retail price of $8, which makes it easier for you to get a copy of my labor of love to the RPG hobby in your preferred devices. Also, don't forget to grab a copy of the Quick and Dirty character sheets and other profiles at a price of pay what you want. The links to both products are in the description. Now, onto the video. Greetings folks, this is Wrongwise Gamgee and welcome to Quick and Dirty Roleplaying. In this video, I want to talk about a subject I'm tentatively calling purpose-driven description. Due to the largely oratory nature of the hobby, one of the primary roles of the Game Master is to describe what the players perceive via the senses that they voluntarily or involuntarily employ, which are typically sight, sound, smell, and taste, and touch, along with any other additional senses that are available to them as dictated by circumstances. The Game Master is, in essence, the artist that paints the world, the musician that breaks the silence, the chef that fills the nostrils with scintillating aromas and putrid stenches, and the evil scientist that raises or lowers the voltage in response to what makes contact with the player character's pain receptors. While the tabletop role-playing game provides players a shared imaginary world for them to explore through their imaginary avatars, they're not engaging in the hobby simply to play make-pretend. Even at its most sandboxy, the shared imaginary world that the player characters explore and that the Game Master presents isn't simply a Westworld-style playground. The players are at the game for a purpose, and the Game Master is there to facilitate that purpose. The purpose being of overcoming challenges in a shared imaginary world, and how doing so changes not only the world they inhabit, but the characters themselves. The purpose is to create stories through the unfolding of events. This is where purpose-driven description comes into play. So when the GM tells the players what their characters perceive, they're answering data-gathering inquiries, usually starting with the words what, how, or is there. So, what do I see? How far is the goblin away from me? Is there cover I can hide behind? With these questions, to some degree or another, while these questions may, to some degree or another, infer as to a deeper purpose, a goal in mind, due to the structuring of the inquiry, not only does it leave ambiguity as to what the player wants to do, but in regards to accomplishing a goal, it adds more steps than is necessary to the process. In essence, it takes longer to get to the why. Let's take the inquiry, how far is the goblin from me, for example. The context of the situation that the PC is in can provide a reasonable inference as to why that question is being asked. In an infiltration scenario, such a question may be asked to determine how distance may be a factor in remaining undetected towards that particular goblin. In a skirmish scenario, such a question may be asked to determine whether or not a ranged attack would incur a penalty of some kind, or to see whether or not the PC has enough movement to also attack the goblin in melee that round, or to shorten the range gap so as not to incur the attack penalty. If this inquiry were to, however, be stated in a way that directly makes the player's purpose known, it would get to the point quicker. For example, how far is the goblin away from me could be restated as, I want to get close enough to the goblin so that I can fire an arrow at it without incurring an attack penalty. Or, I want to maintain enough distance from the goblin so as to not make it easier for them to notice me. The purpose is explicitly embedded into the description of what the player wants their character to do, and in turn, the Game Master can inform the player of what their character needs to do in order to accomplish their stated purpose, or in a situation that is not immediately obvious, or if the challenge at hand is open-ended, the Game Master can then follow up with, "Describe to me how you intend to accomplish your stated goal." In this regard, the Game Master has to strike a balance between not giving the players the immediate solution to their inquiry and not being so obtuse that it not only hurts the momentum of the game, but also frustrates the player, who is explicitly stating their goals in good faith. They are depending on the Game Master to provide them with useful information and are going through the trouble of getting straight to the point. The Game Master should respond accordingly, but also fairly. This is a concept that's come to mind ever since I came across Dungeon World. The basis for its game mechanics are called moves, which provide a method for resolving a particular situation in the game when activated via a specific set of actions performed by the player character within the narrative. Its trigger. When X happens, do Y, and, depending on the dice roll, A, B, or C may occur. It gets to the point and moves the narrative forward. More of the story is emerging. There's no faffing about. To me, purpose-driven description is simply a paradigm of getting to the point and moving onward. When I see a situation where a player is asking, "What do I see here?" and I take a book from the shelf and start reading it, "What does it say?" and I count the steps it takes me to get from one side of the room to the other, and on and on, I can't help but ask, what's the point of all this detail gathering? What are you trying to accomplish? The same goes for players who go way into theater acting. I just want to get to the heart of the matter. That's not to say that the details don't matter. I just want to know what the player wants to accomplish first, so that I can then help facilitate the role-playing and the inquiries along with the mechanics of the game. As much as the players would like to have what they roleplay be what their character does, when it comes to uncertain outcomes, the dice roll ultimately dictates how events turn out, and their characters serve as the imperfect interpreter of the player's desires. In this respect, the Game Master is also there to give players a reality check whenever the way they describe how they're going about to accomplish their goal is in direct contrast to their stated goal, either before the dice roll is made or afterwards. So, you want to cover yourself in fecal matter in order to make yourself less noticeable to the guard you're sneaking past? Make a stealth check at -5. Or, as you tiptoe your way past the guard, you hear him sniff out loud and gag briefly as he says, "Crikey, what's that horrible smell? Did someone shit themselves?" You hear footsteps coming closer immediately afterwards. What do? Even though the group is engaged with the shared imaginary world, things still have to make sense after all. Having said all that, the purpose-driven description isn't meant to completely replace inquiries where the players want to find out more details about the world. Not every single inquiry is in service to some greater personal goal. It's perfectly okay to answer, "Why do you want to do that?" with, "I just want more details." It's the details that really make immersion possible. It's why, in video game RPGs, being able to move the characters around town or on a world map is oftentimes more enjoyable than simply picking where to go on a menu of locations. Fortunately, purpose-driven descriptions don't limit choices in such a manner. Instead, they serve as propulsion to the ongoing narrative. If you like or dislike anything in this video, please give it a like or dislike and leave a comment, keeping it respectful and relevant. Subscribe if you want to support my channel, and if you really want to support my endeavors, head over to my Patreon and become a member. The link is in the description. Until then, folks, take care and play to find out what happens.